Hello, hello everyone. Good morning. Okay. Good morning. And it's been a while. It's been a while that we've spoken. Um, I took a break. I think the last live stream I did would have been probably June 18th, I think it was, from what I saw from my records. And I took a break, did a little vacation. Um, those of you who know me also know that I work a 9 to 5, and I've had persons come up to and say to me, "I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do the people's brand, and you still work a full-time job." And it's not easy. It's a commitment. It's a sacrifice, but it's also about organization. Like really being organized. I don't always get it right the way that I want it to be done, but for the most part, I think that I believe in consistency and I try to be as consistent as possible, but also finding time um, for rest and recreation and to play and to really settle one's mind. Um, Today, I'd like to speak to you about what leadership reveals about you. Um, and it reveals a lot. So let me introduce myself. My name is 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻, um, and I am a leadership coach. And I help new managers develop leadership influence by mastering their relationships at work and elevating their communication skills. And those two things are very important, and it is the foundation of what you do. You are hired because of your competencies, because of your skill set, but that will not get you very far unless you learn to forge and build and cultivate great work relationships with your team, with your boss, with your peers, as well as to elevate your communication. Those two go hand in hand, and it is a theme that will um, run for run forever throughout your life. And whether you are a manager, yes or not, it's a theme. Those two things are things that you really need to learn how to cultivate, because as long as we live in this world, we have people that we have to interact with, do business with, and we have relationships. Relationships are important. And so let me jump into it. What does leadership reveal about you? When you become a manager, when you become a leader, and most of you know that I use the word leader, right? I use the word leader because it calls out something deeper in you. It calls you up to a particular standard. You're not just managing, you're leading, right? And you want to cultivate that sense of leadership. So, what does it reveal about you? Well, it reveals lots about you because you're now, like I explained before, you're now in a position where you are interacting heavily with people. And people are complex by nature. I am complex by nature. You're complex by nature. Um, Almost every other week, I don't know, not every other week, but every week, I don't want to say every day, um, I'm discovering something new about me. So can you imagine others, right? And the first thing that I think, and these are in no particular order, feel free to comment whether you're watching the replay or you're joining me live. The first thing that it reveals about you is it reveals your fears. It reveals your fears. Actually, I think this is the first thing it reveals because I can remember being offered um, or being told that the company that I work for wanted to make me a manager, and I was immediately scared. I could remember a friend of mine that that happened to her, and she did not want. As a matter of fact, she was going to. I always remember the story. She was going to refuse the position because she just felt like, why did they choose me? I don't know anything about being a manager. Why did they choose me? And many of us have similar experiences where, we go to work, we do great work, and, we don't even realize how awesome and how much of an asset we are until, we are approached with this. Yes, we, we've toyed around with the idea that I want to be a manager one day, I want to be a leader one day. But when it does happen, we want to say no. And that is because we fear failure. That is because it brings up fears of inadequacies. Um, that is because there are things there that we haven't resolved, that we don't sometimes believe in ourselves a lot, right? For whatever reasons. And it's not even, that's not a judgment, but those things happen. And so leadership brings up our fears. And even if we weren't approached, maybe we applied for the job, there's a bit of a failure. So leadership brings up our fears. One of the things that fear of failure, one of the things that I have seen, um, and my background is in human resources. And at the time of this video, at this live stream, I am still actively um, a director of human resources. And one of the things I see a lot that's happened is when you're in a forum with employees and you ask a question, at least where I am living, you ask a question or you're in a training class and you're asking something. Many people, they are afraid to speak up. And many people have this fear of being wrong, right? And one of the things that I usually say to people is just answer. This question is it's not about being right or wrong. It's just what you think. And for me to be effective as a leader, as a coach, as a trainer, or whatever I'm doing in that moment, I need to understand how you how you think, what your answer is, so I'll know what angle to take. And that comes back a lot from being in school when you're wrong, you're right. At least when I went to school, it was that side of you're wrong, you're right, and all this, you know, the education system, right? So a lot of that comes from school, and there's a lot of people that they may not have done well in school, right? When you get into hospitality, like my background, a lot of the jobs there, the cleaning of the rooms, the cleaning of the kitchens, and so forth, are done by people. They're menial jobs. They're jobs that, a lot of people look down on them, but I'm telling you, they're absolutely necessary. They're absolutely necessary. And so, um, people, the workforce is made up of different types of people. And if you're leading people, you need to understand that your team is comprised, unless you're working in a particular environment where you need degrees and you need this and you need that, then and even then in institutions, you may have someone who is cleaning. It doesn't mean that the person is less than. That's not what my message is. What I'm saying is the world is comprised of different types of people, different types of background, different types of education, and you have to remember that. And so, even for people who are in leadership roles, a lot of people didn't finish maybe high school, didn't finish middle college, and they have that fear, right? So fear of failure, the residue of the school and education system, that is these things leadership brings out about ourselves, right? It also brings up if you're an introvert, like I think I'm an introvert, um, it brings out the fear of speaking in public, right? I don't know anybody who really wants to speak in public. Like that person has to be super extroverted, um, but fear of speaking in public, right? It brings about your shyness. It brings about all those things. And so that is the one thing that's number one. Leadership reveals your fears. It reveals your fears. Give me a moment. I forgot to make a note about something that I wanted to say. The second thing, and before I go on, if this is you're finding this interesting and helpful, um, share this out to someone who needs this. Somebody who's maybe going into a leadership role, somebody who is going into something new. It's going to be helpful, and save it for yourself the next time, right? That you need a boost. So the next thing that leadership reveals about you, it reveals how immature you are. You're going to, yes, it reveals how immature you are. You're going to encounter situations that um, will it will test how immature you are. And what do I mean by this? It brings out, I have seen how petty and how childish and how sometimes ridiculous people can be. Um, there are moments when you are managing others and you have to, it's like I don't want to say tested, but it's like you're tested. And you have a choice in in the moment. You have a choice. You could go this way or that way. You know, I've seen people who chose to be petty. I've seen people who chose to be childish, screaming and shouting and, you know, revenge. That's what I mean by petty, that sort of thing. It really shows how immature you are. Now, the key is, are you going to act on it? Because thoughts do arise, but are you going to act on it? Because it always comes down to the type of leader that you want to be. Who do you want to be? Um, and that is what I keep for me front and center. What 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 is the message I'm trying to convey? Who do I want to be? Because it starts with me. What type of person do I want to be in this world? What type of leader do I want to be? And that's something that you need to ask yourself. So leadership reveals that about yourself, right? And I will tell you that it isn't worth um, being petty, those things, getting whack at people. It is not worth it. I think and I really believe you're only damaging yourself. You're only damaging yourself. And whether or not people realize or not, you're only damaging yourself. Um, so, number three, what leadership reveals about you is how empathetic you can be, how empathetic you are. And sometimes when you think that, I have empathy, I can put myself in the shoes of others, I can do this, there always comes along a situation that shows you that you could do a little bit more. And so empathy is a trait that is um, active in all successful leaders. If you have no empathy, if you cannot put yourself in the shoes of people and putting yourself in people's shoes, listening, because with empathy, you have to listen. You could never put yourself, you could never understand where someone is coming from unless you listen openly, actively, without judgment. So you have a high degree of listening. A lot of these, one of the things that I like and what I've learned about being a leader is that when you focus on, your development and developing these traits, there are other traits that come with it. So, like I said, you can't say you're empathetic if and you don't listen. There's no way that can happen. So, how empathetic can you be? Leadership shows you that, right? And like I said, you get into situations and you realize, like, I could do a little bit more. And empathy doesn't mean that you agree. It's not about judgment. It's not about not holding people accountable. It's about understanding, right? And from that understanding, you are able to act accordingly. Then, number four is leadership teaches you how impatient you are. It does. It does teaches you. It does teach you how impatient you are, right? Because you will be tested. Your patience will be tested. And if I've always thought that I was an impatient person, and I received some feedback from my team, and they said, you're very patient. One of them said, you're like a teacher, and I had to smile to myself because I always thought that I was a very impatient. There's certain things that I get impatient about. So that was very good to hear. It means that I'm doing something right, and those types of things encourages a leader to even lean in more into that trait, right? So leadership teaches you that. Number five, leadership teaches you, it reveals how selfless, selfish or selfless you are. Because think about it, you're going to be in positions that you're good, you're fine, um, whatever is going on does not affect you. But there's going to be people around you that need your help. And maybe you won't get in trouble. Maybe, it's not going to change anything if you don't help them. But what about if you do help them? Leadership reveals how selfish or selfless you are. Are you willing to go out on a limb for someone? If you are in a forum and you are hearing someone being misrepresented, and most of the times when I say that is through gossip, maybe something that is inaccurate about a person, as a leader, will you speak up? If you don't speak up, it probably wouldn't affect you. It probably wouldn't really impact that person, other than people just have a perception. But will you be the one to speak up and say, hey, that's not entirely true, and here's why? Leadership reveals that about you. You get a lot in forums and situations where, like I said, if you don't do anything, you're good. It doesn't, it you know, it's not going to impact you. You're not going to be impacted negatively, but it's about the other person. So what are you doing? Um, six. Number six is what leadership reveals is how much you really don't know about the world and culture. It reveals that. If you truly are striving to be an influential leader, if you really want to do the right thing, and you're listening and you're interacting with people, you're going to be hearing stories, you're going to be learning about people and their culture, you're going to be learning about how people grew up, you're going to be learning lots of things. If you're listening and you put yourself in a position and you realize that you really don't know um, lots of things, especially about the stories of people who have made it, the stories of people who have been successful. You really don't know a lot. And it's a humbling experience to learn these things, to know that the world is really big. People have stories. People, especially if you're talking about persons who are maybe have left their homes and they're now in your country trying to make it. Um, some of the stories are just incredible. And as leaders, ask yourself, what can you do to really help that person, right? And then lastly, leadership reveals how successful you will be, because taking into consideration everything that I've said, you have a choice. You can choose to lean in and learn more about you and change and fix things that you know that needs changing and fixing about you, the things that you could be better at, like listening, like communication, like working on your those relationships, like being more empathetic, being more patient. What you choose to do reveals how successful you will be. And you know, you may be thinking that, yeah, I can get away, I can climb, I'll get, I'm good in my job, but I believe influential leadership is about changing the lives of others. We are not in a position for ourselves, we're in a position to really change the lives of others. And that is what it is all about. There is a quote by a man, I think, I want to say a philosopher or a seer. Um, his name is Rumi, and he said, "We're all just here to walk each other home." And the first time I heard it, it was just really powerful to me. But we're really just here to walk each other home. And what that tells me is that it says to me, we're here to help each other. And that is what being an influential leader is. It's not just here for yourself to advance you. That's great, that's good. But I believe that when we are to whom more is given, more is required, more is expected, and that is how you gain your success. So if you are enjoying these live streams, if you are enjoying the People's Brand content, you can work with me. There's a way, and you need to strengthen your leadership. You can work with me in my Communicate to Influence coaching program. Um, the links are in my bio if you're on Instagram and on my Facebook. In the About section, you should find more information there, and you schedule a consultation call and let's talk about how I can help you, how we can work together to get you to develop that influential leadership that you so want to do. And so happy Saturday, everyone. Have a great Saturday and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.